Okay, so before we launch into a discussion about air pollution, we should first define what air pollution is and define what clean air looks like. So what is air pollution? It's whenever you add gases, vapors, or small particles to the atmosphere that could harm a life form. So if it doesn't harm anything, it's not really considered pollution, but there are many, many different forms of pollution. A pollutant can be natural or it can be human caused. So an example of human caused would be industrial emissions or car exhaust, and those are the two biggest forms of human emissions and pollution in the atmosphere. But it could also be natural pollution sources such as volcanic ash and forest fires. And forest fires are particularly a problem out in the western U.S. Just to kind of review what is in air naturally, so we know what isn't air pollution, the major gases in air include nitrogen. So most of the air surrounding you is made up of nitrogen. 78% of those gases are nitrogen. Then there's 21% of the air around you that's oxygen. So combined, those two make up 99% of all the gas molecules you're breathing in. In addition, there's 0.04% carbon dioxide, which of course is crucial. Plants take up carbon dioxide in order to build plant material. Water vapor, depending on where you live, can make up from almost 0 to 4% of gases in the surrounding air. So when we talked about the major gases before, that was excluding water vapor because that number does vary. So if you live in a desert area like Arizona, you're going to be closer to that 0 number much of the year. If you live in a more tropical environment, somewhere like eastern Texas or in the Gulf states, then you might be approaching closer to 4%, or in the Midwestern U.S. in the summer, those numbers can get very high. There are 40 trace gases in the atmosphere, and that just means that they're in a very low percentage. These include ozone, helium, hydrogen, NOx, we will talk about, nitrogen oxide compounds, sulfur dioxide, that's another common pollutant, neon, and many more. And then of course, especially if you live somewhere that there's not a lot of greenery, then you might notice aerosols, such as dust in the air. Aerosols are any kind of microscopic particles, so that can include dust, but also pollen, salts. If you're near the ocean, salts can get into the air as the waves come in and froth up some of that salt, and then microbes. Pollen is important when you're talking about air quality because of this pollen can cause allergies for people, and so often in the air quality reports they will report pollen levels. And then dust also, some people are allergic to dust, and in some areas where dust is a big problem, they will also report dust levels. You can learn a lot more about this if you wanted to review some of this information on the National Weather Service's Jetstream site, which is like an online school about the atmosphere and weather.